Welcome to the Empowering Choices Parenting Podcast. My name is Joshua.
I'm Erik.
Hi, I'm Lucas.
Erik and Lucas are licensed professional counselors. We have created an online community with a website and an app full of parenting resources and courses. Most importantly, all of this is centered around a private community where you can share your struggles with us and others. If you are interested in joining, please check out our website at empoweringchoices.community or search for our app in the App Store by searching Empowering Choices. For a small monthly fee, you receive everything I talked about and you help support the show. Plus, every time someone purchases a membership, we gift a membership on your behalf to someone who otherwise could not afford it. All right, now on with today's show.
And today we're continuing talking about our formulas for how children feel love.
And our next part of our formula is about structure.
Structure.
Yes.
That was terrifying. Don't either of you ever do that at the same time ever again.
Oh, we could even do it in deeper voices.
That's structure. We had structure.
I don't think that's what structure is.
So you don't want us to structure that in, to be able to say the same thing. Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
All right. So we should probably focus on, what structure is.
It wasn't that.
It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't that. Okay. Because you're right. We didn't set that up ahead of time.
True.
No, you did not. That just happened terribly
Yes.
coincidentally. So what is structure, and why do we care?
So structure is a setup of things. It's a setup of a predictability of what's going to happen, of what's coming next, what can be expected. It's the way things are lined up and listed out, and especially with small kids, they really help them to be able to understand and expect what's coming in their day. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I work with, families, I'll talk about structure and routine and, how important that really is to a child and how much actually having a structure and a routine can be a big part of eliminating behaviors that they're seeing and struggling against, there in the family. Because a lot of times there will be behaviors that come up because the child just doesn't know what's next.
Because, and we're talking about children, small children, they are literally learning how the world works. Mm-hmm. And if the world feels like an unpredictable, chaotic place, their behaviors are going to look unpredictable and chaotic.
Well, and think back to when you were a child. When you're realizing that the world is an unpredictable and big place, at whatever age or moment you had a little bit of a grasp on that, you're still 2.5 feet tall?
Right. If it is unpredictable and chaotic, how much power do I have? Oh, crap.
Yes, exactly. And structure is very similar to, a home is structured when it's built.
Right, you're talking about like the metaphor and why we use the word.
Yep, exactly. It has a foundation, it has walls, it has, all kinds of pieces. It has a roof, it has things that work together that create this environment that give us all a sense of safety.
Mm-hmm. And so there's the element of structure of what's coming next, which I might use the word like routine or schedule, right? That's part of it.
Because that is a part of the structure.
But then there's also the if I do this, then this happens.
Right.
And I don't know. You might use the word consequences there. Consequences always has this negative connotation, but it doesn't have to.
No, it
right?
doesn't.
If I go to work, a consequence is that I get paid.
Right.
Right.
Or if I go to work and work really hard and my boss, sees what I'm doing, I might get a bonus. That's a consequence.
Right.
And the bonus can be it could be just simply the boss saying, nice job, nice work. I see what you're doing. That's a consequence.
And maybe we call those the rules, right? And these are the structure that bounds the interactions in our house.
And one of the things that I encourage parents to do is to line that out and list that out. I know when I was a kid, we got to dinner time, which was 5 or 5:30, after dinner time, there might be, like a half an hour we could just, kind of play and have some free time. 6 o'clock started the bedtime routine, so that started the bath time, and, then that after that started, moving towards my bedroom. And then there was an hour in there to where my mom would, come in and read bedtime stories. Or as I got older, that was my first taste of The Hobbit and other books of that genre, which she was reading to me, but I loved it. And then there was a lights out time, it was usually around, depending on my age, because as I got older, I had a longer bedtime before I had to turn the lights out.
Sure.
But it was predictable. I knew what was coming. I knew what was next, and it provided a sense of safety and security in there.
Well, and I think what you also said was that like the child should know, like it should be routine and predictable and understandable. And I think you should also just literally say, right? Like instead of just like, because if you do it over and over again, it'll become part of the routine.
Exactly.
But then you can also just say it of like, okay, it's coming on to 6 o'clock, that that we do this thing, and then you keep saying it and making it, even more plain.
Becomes second nature.
Sure. Yeah. It also becomes second nature, and you can talk about it explicitly and forthrightly. And because I guess you talk about like, there's like the rules and then there's the unspoken rules, right? And we don't like unspoken rules are I don't know if they're frequently negative, but they can be. Right?
They can be.
And we don't want those to be scary and unknown and yeah.
And we have in our society, we have a lot of unspoken rules that kind of go along the lines of relational, social components, and they can be extremely confusing, for a child, because a child's mindset is black and white thinking, concrete thinking.
They don't have the abstract ability to say like, why did Grandpa say this, but he actually meant the other thing, but you did the opposite of what he said, but how? Huh?
Right. It's like the equivalent of telling your 6-year-old, people who throw stones shouldn't live in glass houses.
Right, and the kid's like, I'll never throw a rock again.
Right. Well, yeah. Why would you throw a rock at a glass house? Everybody can see me in a glass house. I don't understand. Why are we in a fishbowl? What? If they even say that part.
Right. Yeah. Fishbowl. That wouldn't even. No.
Right. And so working with the routine works with exactly the way they're thinking about the world at their ages.
Because we want it to be concrete and understandable and predictable and routine is fortunately all of those things. Routine and structure is concrete. It's not like abstract and
exactly
out there.
And it's something that Western society has in all types of areas. When they go to school, there's a concrete routine. Unless you go to a school that is more of an open school, and it's I think a Montessori school is what they're called, and that's different because the structure and routine of that is more open and abstract. But most schools, there's certain days and certain times and certain classes. When they get to middle school, it's the same build on that, certain days and certain times and certain classes. When you get to high school, it's the same thing, certain days and certain times and certain classes, with a little bit of an opening up there.
In high school,
And honestly, as the child gets into middle school and then high school, the structure can look and should look differently.
It's beginning to become more flexible as their brain is able to handle some increased flexibility.
As the brain is developing in different ways, so can the structure develop in the ways of their thinking. And this is where it's an art, not a science, because you may have a 15-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And if the structure now changes for the 15-year-old, that doesn't mean it's also that way for the 5-year-old.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's thinking, no. There's different responsibility levels.
Exactly. And so the structure helps helps our kids to be able to see a little bit of what they can expect out there in the world in different ways. They go to a job someday, there's going to be structure. You have to come at a certain time generally if you want to keep the job. I've worked with people, they came in whenever they wanted. Some of them got fired. Some of them ran and hid enough that they didn't get fired for a couple of years, but it did happen. You know, and that's a structure.
And that makes sense to help people accomplish the goals that they need. And because we are trying to bring this formula around to how parents love your children, right? If they feel safe and secure, they're going to be able to feel loved as opposed to wibbledy wobbledy and chaos and panic.
Right. Well, and we haven't even touched base on structure actually helps them to understand boundaries. When I was growing up, I just had a younger brother, but a part of the structure was you couldn't just go into your brother's room. He couldn't just go into my room, you know, without asking. And at any given time, either one of us could tell the other one, you can leave my room now. You know, because that was in the structure. Those were the boundaries. We were learning how to develop boundaries for ourselves, you know, in social and relational pieces. And our parents would back that up. I mean,
Because they had established that you could do that.
Yep.
So it was a rule from them that then you could manipulate that rule as you needed to.
Yep.
Giving, you know, an appropriate level of empowerment.
Right. And there were a couple of times where, you know, I'm in my brother's room and suddenly he just looks at me and says, you can leave now, you know, or I want you to leave now. And I, being the bigger brother, would look at him and go, no, you don't get to tell me that. And then my dad generally would peek around the corner and go, actually, he does.
And you didn't necessarily know why he said that.
Yep.
And it didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
He felt like he needed that. And it's entirely possible he was just flexing that rule to make you do something you didn't want to do. And then it's okay.
I'd give it a 50-50 that, you know, I might have been being mean at that moment. And then on the flip side, he did figure out there were some certain places he could have some power.
Sure. And who
so-
doesn't want to flex those?
Yeah, I'll give that because he never really came into my room. You know, so I never really had the way of going, I can kick you out now. You know, because we had different toys, we had different interests, we had different, you know, he generally had said, well, will you come play with my toys? You know, and again, kind of on that 50-50 as to why I was being kicked out. But the structure has a lot of value to the child, and it really equals the safety and security to that child and helps them to be able to gain a sense of that.
You've been listening to the Empowering Choices Parenting Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, we would encourage you to visit our website at empoweringchoices.community. For a small monthly fee, we offer a website full of parenting courses and resources. You also have the ability to connect with parents going through the same struggles you are in a safe and private environment. Every time you purchase a membership to our site, we give away a membership to a parent in financial need. Help yourself become a better parent while helping others gain access to important parenting materials by supporting our podcast. Check us out at empoweringchoices.community or in the App Store by searching Empowering Choices. We'll see you on our next episode.